fans, A2D Radio is live with a special Memorial Day edition of the Sports Hounds. As always, I'm Rob Brinkman. He's Brad Pryor. Frank Vesby is producing. We have a special guest tonight, Greg Pryor, 1985 World Series champion, a big leaguer, published author. He's going to talk about his book as well as the sport of baseball. As always, we are live on Facebook, Periscope, Instagram, YouTube. You miss anything on A2D Radio, we can be downloaded and streamed in podcast form. Google Play, Spotify, iTunes, Spreaker, everywhere. The takeover is real. Don't miss out on being a part of the fastest growing sports media company in the country. That is A2D Radio. We're brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy. Dr. Paul Vidal. Visit specializedphysicaltherapy.com for more details. We're also brought to you by Ambuck Services, the gutter and deck restoration experts of South Jersey. Visit ambuckservices.com for more information on the details they offer. Obviously, the man of the hour here, former Texas Ranger, former Chicago White Sox, former Kansas City Royal. He's a World Series champion in 1985. He has yet another book about to be published. Greg, thanks for coming on a holiday edition of the Sports Hounds. We're happy to have you.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here. I haven't talked to people in New Jersey for a long time, so I'm excited to get to know you guys and to talk some baseball and to maybe show people my book that are watching.
Yeah, absolutely. Last three guests have been authors, so you fit right in. You're the first baseball book that we've talked about here on the Sports Hounds. Right off the bat, Greg, I got to ask you about the title. The title of the book is The Day the Yankees Made Me Shave, a baseball autobiography. The title of the book interested me because obviously their rule about facial hair is very recognized, but there's the book right there. But you didn't play for the Yankees until you spent time in their minor league system in the late 70s. You had a couple stops before that. So I was wondering why you made the Yankees the forefront of the title of your new book.
I've invited a bunch of Yankee fans on this podcast from my page. My Facebook page is Greg Pryor Facebook page, and I talk to hundreds of people, and probably too much because I'm posting like 4 or 5 times a day on my Facebook page. But Yankee fans, I could have signed with the Yankees in '77. I was in Yankee Stadium with Steinbrenner face to face. I was broke. I was 28 years old. I was broke, and Steinbrenner said, "Hey Pryor, we want to call you up. We're going to give you a 2-year contract, guaranteed. And we want you to come up, and we're going to pay you more than the minimum." And I was broke at 28, so I almost took it, but I didn't. But let me regress a little bit because I never was a Yankee. But that second with Steinbrenner, if I'd signed that contract, I would have Yankee name on the resume to my rest of my life. And I might have been in the 77 or 78 World Series because if all the Yankee fans are watching here, they remember that in 77, the Yankees beat the Dodgers in a World Series. And there was a backup infielder on that 77 team that took my job in 77 spring training with the Yankees. His name was George Zeber. And no offense to George Zeber, but if you go look at our baseball cards, I got like 37 cards back here.
George Zeber couldn't hit a lick.
What's that?
Couldn't hit a lick.
No, but a lot of listeners looking at my stats, they think I couldn't hit a lick either. But let me tell you about my mustache, because that's why you asked me. I got traded to the Yankees in February of '77. Gabe Paul called me and said that the Rangers had traded me to the Yankees. So I go down to spring training in Lauderdale, and there's Nettles, there's Randolph, there's Piniella, there's Reggie, there's Thurman, Catfish. They're all there in the clubhouse, and I'm undressing, and I'm putting the Yankee uniform on for a whole month. And I had this mustache, just like Thurman and Catfish, and the other guys had mustaches. So. But when Billy sent me out for the 3rd time, I got fired 3 times by Billy Martin. That's one of my non-claims to fame. They said, "Pryor, before you can play in Syracuse, you got to shave your mustache." And I said, "Wait a minute, you traded for me, you didn't want me. Now I got to shave my mustache, or I can't play in Syracuse. You kidding me?" So I had a revolt in Syracuse on my Syracuse team. And I said, "Hey, you guys, we're all man enough to grow mustaches. Vote here." So we all signed the paper. I took it into the manager's office, and I said, "Hey, Pete," I said, "we're all growing mustaches here in Syracuse." So we went against George's rules. And 3 weeks later, they changed the rule. They allowed mustaches for the minor leagues. I was the last guy growing a mustache, and it really ticked me off because I wanted to get traded. I grew my mustache because I wanted to get out of the Yankee organization. I wanted them to release me or trade me. And Pete Ward, my manager, he was so upset with me. He goes, Pryor, you're making me look bad. I got to report this to Steinbrenner. I said, do you tell him to trade me or release me? I don't care. I was 28. It was my third year in AAA. So I decided to put the damn story as the cover, the story of my book, The Day the Yankees Made Me Shave. And the first story in the book is what happened there. And it was like, it wasn't a crucial time in my career, even though I was able to grow a mustache and George had to change the rules because of me. I don't say that egotistically. I'm just saying this. I was there. I know what happened. I had 3 weeks of growth, and I was not going to shave. So, really, I got traded for Sandy Alomar. So what are they going to do? Say, yeah, we had to release Pryor because he wouldn't shave his mustache. Yeah, they wouldn't have said that. So that's basically how the book got its name. And then I wrote 26 more stories. And I've been enjoying talking to people about it. And I just thank all the people on this Facebook right now that bought my book. There's a number of people that have already bought my book. They know all these stories I might tell you tonight, but let's go after it and see how much baseball we can talk.
Now, the book is forwarded by one of the greatest managers of all time, and Tony La Russa. I'm assuming you guys crossed paths in Chicago.
Tony La Russa, forward by Tony La Russa.
Forwarded by Tony La Russa. I mean,
hey,
one of the greatest managers
listen,
of all time.
I have to tell you the quick story about how I got his name on the front of my book. He gets called up to the big leagues in '79 from Knoxville. I believe he was in AAA Knoxville. They called him up, right? And he's our manager. He's 38, 39 years old. And we're thinking, Tony La Russa? Who's Tony La Russa? Because I had Bob Lemon. I had Larry Doby. I had Don Kessinger. And then I get Tony La Russa. And who was Tony? We didn't really respect him that much as a manager when he started. But the first game he managed was in Toronto. I was a shortstop, and we won his first major league game. I was a shortstop in Toronto. So I figured that gives me some credit to call him and say, hey, write it forward to my book. No, I was with Tony for like 300 and some games. And I respect him so much. I watched what he did in Oakland. I watched what he did in St. Louis, wherever, in Chicago. But I called him up and I said, hey, Tony, I want you to write the forward to my book. And he said, I'm writing one for Del Maxfield right now. He's after I get done with Maxfield's, I'll write your forward. And so I sent my manuscript to Boston because he was working for the Red Sox at that time. He doesn't read on the computer. He only reads paper. So I overnight the manuscript. And in my manuscript, I had several places in my book where I kind of cut him down. In his mind, I cut him down. I thought I was telling the truth. And he calls me up. He goes, Pryor. He goes, you cut me down in your book, didn't you? I said, well, not really. I just tell him the truth, Tony. I said, just write what you want to write. So in my book is 5 pages of a forward from Tony La Russa, and he put this player in his place because his Hall of Fame managerial personality came out in his forward because he put me on my place in the forward. And I told him to. I said, Tony, whatever you want to write. And I'm so proud that he did it, and I'm so proud to have him on the front of my book.
Okay, now before the show, you showed us a Sports Illustrated cover with one Bo Jackson on the cover.
Yeah, there's Bo.
You played with Bo in Kansas City. Just talk about what kind of athlete he was, your relationship with him. Just really tremendous. A guy like me who's 30 to look back on such a tremendous athlete.
Well, it's as I told you guys before the show, I don't even think I mentioned Bo in my first book because I had all these other stories from, the 70s and the 80s before Bo got there. So I ran out of, I was only going to do so many. If you can't tell 27 stories, if you can't get people to buy 27 stories, you don't need to write more. And even though Bo was a great person in my life and it was wonderful to be around him, I had Bobby Bonds. I played with Bobby Bonds. I played with all these. I played with Ron Bloomberg. I played with all these guys. So I put them in my book. But when Bo got there in '86, we all knew who he was, obviously. Everybody in the whole country knew who Bo was. He Heisman winner at Auburn. And we know that he went down to Tampa Bay and he lost his last year of eligibility at Auburn because he was upset with Tampa Bay for making him a pro. That's why he couldn't play his last year at Auburn. There was no way in H that he was going to go play for Tampa Bay when Bo got drafted, right? So he turned down $7 million to come to Kansas City for, I think, about $500,000. That's what he got. So he's at my locker one day in '86, and he's sitting there, and I don't know why. He's just sitting there talking, and I had a picture of an oil well in my locker that I had an oil well in Ohio. And and I'm not gonna talk like Bo, but Bo had a unique way of talking when he got to the big leagues. And believe me, with the muscles he had, you didn't make fun of the way Bo talked. Bo was fine with me. I wasn't gonna make fun of him, but he was. Everybody loved Bo anyway. So he says, Pryor, what are you doing playing baseball? You got an oil well. And I looked down. I said, Bo, you just turned down $7 million from Tampa Bay to come here for $500,000. I said, what are you doing playing baseball? And he looked at me and he goes, I'm just waiting for the right time. Okay. And he wasn't telling me he was going to go play NFL football, but in the back of his mind, he knew that as soon as he could, he was going to go sign and play both. So what happened in the next draft was one of the biggest faults in Kansas City sports history, when they allowed the Oakland Raiders to draft Bo before they drafted him. Bo got drafted in like the 6th or 7th round for Tampa Bay when he came out to go play NFL football. What if the Chiefs had drafted him in the 1st round? Bo would have gone across the hall to play for the Chiefs and the Royals. I don't understand. I wish I knew who the GM was of the Chiefs back then, because we let Bo get away to Oakland, and who knows what would have happened had he not got injured in Oakland. But to say one last thing. I don't argue this point, and I know there's Dave Winfields out there, and Deion Sanders, and Tiger Woods, and King James, whatever. I don't care, Larry Bird, whatever. Bo Jackson is the best athlete ever to set a foot on a professional field in this country and across the world.
Can't disagree with that.
What's that?
Can't disagree with that.
Yeah, well, people argue about it. It's okay. And I say, well, Pryor was around him. Around him. That's the reason why I'm talking so strong. No, Bo slid at home one time and took out Rick Dempsey, and it's the only time I've ever seen a player taken off the baseball field on a stretcher from home plate. They took him off on a stretcher. Yeah, and it was a normal slide. But Bo was a step above. I was on deck when he hit the longest home run in Royals history. He was a step above. There was nothing. Nobody compared to him. I said, Bo, how'd you get strong? He said, I was born this way. He never worked out on weight.
What about that home run he hit in the All-Star game?
Yeah, inside he hit a pitch from Rick Russell, a sinker. He inside outed that ball way over the center field fence on the first swing, I think.
Yep.
It was totally natural ability. Bo, people say, oh, Bo, but Bo had it all. I wish he could have played both sports for at least 10 or 15 years, and it would have been a nice discussion. But Bo was wonderful, and you didn't want to play catch with him. He only threw 98. He couldn't throw 94. He only threw 98 every time he threw a ball.
All right, so I got to ask you about another teammate, another lightning rod, in George Brett. Obviously, you had the Pine Tar game. You won a world championship with George Brett as integral part of that in 1985 with the World Series.
Best left-handed hitter I ever saw.
Well, there's an argument on Facebook about Brett and Schmidt. Which one was the better? Which one would you take?
Seen them.
If you had to take one.
We're here in the Philadelphia area.
Yeah.
Well, like Mike Schmidt.
I told you guys already. I used to be a Philly, so I love talking Phillies baseball. I wish I could have been a Philly. I love those those pinstripe uniforms, man. Those were cool. Those red pinstripes. Anyway, when I got to big leagues with the White Sox in '78, I was there 4 years with Bill Beck, and I played against the Royals. And they had, come on, the Royals in the late '70s. Oh my gosh, they steamrolled everybody except the Yankees, and then they finally got the World Series in '80 against Philadelphia, right? Mm-hmm. Well, in spring of '82, I spent 4 years playing against the Royals, and I didn't like them too much because they were cocky. Really cocky, and I didn't like it. So I get traded to the Royals in spring of '82, and I go into the clubhouse the next morning from the White Sox camp in Sarasota. I drove down to Fort Myers. I walked in and I'm at my locker and nobody's coming over to say hi to me. I didn't care. I had a thick skin by then. I didn't care. I was there to play ball. I wasn't there to make friends. I thought. So anyway, the equipment manager runs over to me. He goes, Pryor. He goes, what uniform do you want? I said, what do you mean? He goes, we're going to Baltimore in a week. I got a week to get numbers on your uniform. Which number do you want? And I wasn't big into numbers. I told him I didn't care. Well, Jamie Quirk ran over to my locker. I knew Jamie, and he goes, Pryor, take number 4. I said, why? He goes, you'll locker next to George. I said, okay, I'll take number 4. So that's how I got number 4, because I could locker next to George. And I was next to George at the Plantar game in Yankee Stadium. I locker next to him. But I'm out on the field right on my first day there, and George walks up to me, and he looks at me. He goes, Pryor, we trade for you? I said, yeah. He goes, let me ask you a question. He goes, well, every time I was on second base or third base when we played the White Sox, you never talked to me. How come you never walk up over and say hi to me? I said, because I didn't like you very much at all, George, really. I didn't like you at all. George goes, you like me now? I said, I love you now. So now listen, and you can talk about George. You don't need me to tell you how good George was, but from a guy that was a decent infielder for the White Sox, and I played it every day for a couple years there, 79 and 80. I played a lot of games there. I go to Kansas City, and I wasn't going to they weren't going to give me a job over George at third base, but I knew I had to go in and play for him when he was injured. It was a challenge to know that George wasn't in the lineup, and I had to do the same with Frank. When Frank got hurt at second, I played a lot of second, so it was a big challenge. It's a lot harder to play on a winning team. Let me tell you that.
Did you play? Did UL Washington play back then? Shortstop.
Yeah, I played with UL. I loved UL.
Yeah.
He had the toothpick in his mouth, right?
Yep.
But man, if I could have his speed, I'd be in the Hall of Fame. I'm telling you, he could really run, and he was a really good shortstop. I think he was a shortstop in '80 when the Royals and Phillies played in '80, right?
I think that's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Fairly certain. Yes. You mentioned Bill Veeck before. You were the starting shortstop for the Chicago White Sox on the infamous Disco Demolition.
Yeah.
And you just kind of try and put in the words how much of a circus that was, and talk about Bill Veeck as a promoter, because he's one of the best, a pioneer in ballpark promotions, really.
Hey, they're going to call this the non-claim to fame show, okay? Playing in the Disco Demolition is not something I'm proud of. Hey, when I signed with the White Sox, I was a free agent. I left the Yankees, and I was a free agent, and my agent was Steve Greenberg, and he was Hank Greenberg's son. And I had known Steve from the playing with the Rangers. We were both in minor leagues together. So Steve called me. He goes, Pryor, I'm an agent now. And I said, I'd like to be your agent. And I said, what do you want? He goes, I want 4%. I said, you got it. He was the only guy that called me to be an agent. So he called Bill Veeck because he knew Bill Veeck, because Bill Veeck and Hank Greenberg were very close over the years in baseball. And Steve was the son of Hank. So Steve got me a good 1-year contract there. And then I guess we'll fast forward to 79. I'm everyday shortstop, and we had a doubleheader against Tigers back when they did have doubleheaders. Where did doubleheaders go? Anyway, I go out to play in the first game. I think we start at 5:30, and your body. Most major leaguers, they're not used to playing doubleheaders, so the body was different. The mind was different. But in the first 6 innings, we didn't really notice too much. But in the 7th inning, like 44,000 people took their seats, and there was like 10,000 people outside the ballpark. And when they started putting those banners up all over the outfield fence, and when they started chanting "Disco sucks," it's like, these people are here for a rock concert, not a baseball game. It was, they have a video online. You can see the Disco Demolition game. You can see parts of it, but for me to be a shortstop out there in front of these 44,000 rock and roll fans, who would, it's probably the first baseball game they've ever gone to in Comiskey Park, right? They came from all over. It was like having Woodstock inside a stadium.
Right.
There was like 20,000 outside. It couldn't get in. it was a weird aura. I've never felt it was a negative evil aura in a way, because I like disco and I like rock. But these people came to blow up disco. They got in. They said they brought a 33 and a third. They got in for a reduced price. They collected all the records in the middle of the game, between games of the doubleheader. They stacked them all up in center field over some dynamite. And at the right time, the disc jockey Steve Dahl, I guess he pushed the button. I was in the clubhouse getting ready for the second game. We had lost the first game, so we had like 40 minutes to get ready for the second game. I'm in there getting dressed, and they're out blowing up music or records on the field. And I was getting ready to pull my pants on, and Kenny Kravik, our starting pitcher, walked by my locker, and I looked at him. I said, "Hey, Crave, what are you doing?" He said, "I said, aren't you starting?" He goes, "Pryor, you need to go out there because they're rioting. There's a riot out there." And I'm thinking, a riot? I got to see this. So here I am running down the clubhouse to go see what's going on outside. And the disco people, I guess you want to call them disco people, the disco revelers, they were trying to take over our clubhouse. They took everything out of our dugout. They took all the gloves, all the bats, all the hats. Everything we had in the dugout was gone. Then they said, well, let's just go take over their clubhouse. So gangs of them were trying to get in our clubhouse. As I'm running toward them, I'm running right toward the enemy. And luckily, our clubhouse manager had a bat up over his head like this, and he was looking right at him. I was right behind him, and I'll never forget the look on they were crazy kids, you know. And he says, one more step, and I'm going to let somebody have it upside the head. And he was going to hit him. You know, it would have been nasty. But they backed up, and he closed the door, and then we were prisoners for the next hour and a half. We heard the horses. The Chicago policemen came up with their horses, and they were outside our clubhouse on the cement. It was we didn't know what was going on. We were prisoners. But they forfeited the second game to the Tigers. But that was it'll never happen again. You can be sure of that.
No, that's certainly not.
Did you guys have to wear shorts that year? What year was it that you guys wore shorts?
The White Sox wore shorts in 1976.
Okay, so you weren't there for that.
I was in Sacramento in AAA with the Rangers.
Okay. So I remember that promotion.
All right, we have a question here from our comments here. Greg Milakovic asks, "What is one thing you like or dislike about today's game compared to the time you played?"
That's a great question. How long do we have?
We're on till 9.
No. Hey, listen. I'm not going to bash the greatest game ever invented. It's hard to bash the game.
Yeah.
But one thing that I really didn't like was when they started throwing out baseballs because they trickled into the dirt for some reason.
Yeah.
You know, I back when I played, we were forced to play with the dirty ball for like 3 innings. You know, we get up on the mat. I get up to home plate, and there'd be, you know, some phenomenal pitcher out there, Jim Palmer, whatever, throwing a dirty ball, and to ask the umpire to check the ball when those phenoms are pitching, you just don't do it. You know, they would look at you like, yeah, I'd like to throw this upside your head for asking to look at the ball. We used to have the ball thrown in and have the umpire check the ball to see if it was clean enough to play. So when I played, if I got a dirty ball at third base at the end of the inning, whatever, and I saw it, I would roll it back to the mound, and I would tell our first hitter, or if I was the first hitter, I'd go up there and let this pitcher come out, get that dirty ball, and throw his 7 or 8 warm-up pitches. And then right when the game was going to start, I would step out of the batter's box, and I'd look at the umpire, and I'd say, excuse me, can you check that dirty ball out there for me, please?
Gamesmanship. I like it.
It was a part of the game. I loved it. It was a small part of the game. Hey, I saw catchers when they were warming a pitcher up, drag the ball in the dirt on the way, throwing it between innings. They would drag the ball in the dirt and throw it back to the pitcher. So the umpire would, when I played, they had the inner tube, and then he would swing his inner tube out. He'd look at me like I was the worst thing in the world. And so the pitcher would lob it in like a grenade, and I'd walk over next to him and the catcher and the umpire, and I would stare at that ball right with it and the umpire. And I never called it unless I knew they were going to throw it out. The umpire compared a white ball and a dirty old ball. He threw the dirty ball out. Now, the reason why they started tossing balls out when they hit in the dirt for one pitch is because some smart people somewhere said they're going to speed up the game, right? That was a part of speeding up the game.
How does that speed up the game?
I don't know. That's the question that was asked of me. What don't I like? Well, that's just one small part that I don't like anymore about it. Okay.
Overall,
I don't like it that I'm not making $10 million a year right now talking to you guys. No. No.
But overall, Greg, are you happy with the state of baseball right now, or do you think changes need to be made?
For people that don't know me, I'm 70 and I played in the big leagues from. I was in the big leagues in '76, and I got let go in the spring of '87. So I was there around 10 years, and I played old school game. I played the old school game. I played with guys that were before the union was even formed. These guys were hardcore baseball players, and most of the rules of the game were taken care of on the field. We took care of the stuff in the dugout and on the field and in the clubhouse, and that's the way the game was played. I mean, I played with Ralph Garr. Oh my gosh, what an old-time ball player he was! Led the National League in hitting. I played with Ralph Garr '78 in Chicago. Anyway, so the other rule, I guess, that is a specific rule that I really don't like, because for years as a middle infielder, they used to try to cut me up at second base on turn of double plays.
Yeah.
Now, if you fart at the guy, you're called out.
Yeah.
And I go out and I watch these guys slide into second base now, and I see it, and I see these infielders. They really don't have any fear of getting hit, and I understand why. I never got hurt. I never got a broken leg. I never got stitches because I was smart enough to get out of the way. That's what you do. Now, if somebody, Ron LaFleur used to really like to hit me because he was fast enough. It's only the fast guys that really get down there to hit you. And but if we thought it was uncalled for, we would take care of it in our way as the opposing team. But that's the way the game has been played for years and years and years. And now you watch a guy slide into second, you watch a double play being turned, and I think it's another rule to speed up the game. I don't think it was to solve injuries, even though what's the catcher for San Francisco that got hurt? Because
Posey.
Yeah. Well, that's one of because you want the stars to be in the game. Baseball was created so there was a Hall of Fame guys, and the rest of us were suspects. Because without the guys would never make the Hall of Fame unless they had guys like me that would play and try to because baseball needs 25 guys.
Greg, when were you around for Hal McRae when he played for the Royals? Hal McRae.
Did you ask me if I played poker with Hal McRae?
No, did you play ball with Hal McRae? Was he on the team?
I played with Hal for 5 years. He was one of my favorite players ever.
He was pretty tough going into second base.
Well, Hal learned that in Cincinnati from the hardcore ball players they had there. Remember that team in 1970?
Oh yeah.
Hal brought that attitude with him. And nobody told him to do it. He did it on his own, and he's probably the reason why they changed that slide rule. One of the reasons, because he took Willie Randolph out the left field one game.
I remember that
in Yankee Stadium.
That's what I remember about.
It's one of the best baseball pictures ever taken. Is when Hal took him back and took him out into left field.
Yeah, you know what? Nobody stood at second base when he was on first base either.
And the great thing about playing with Hal was that, if George was healthy and Frank was healthy, I didn't get to play as much. And Hal was a DH for the Royals, and he led the American League in RBIs one year. I think I forget what year. But we would be in the clubhouse a lot, and I would watch him get ready because he had an at bat coming up the next inning, and I would watch his preparation, and it was so cool to watch him because he was in his element as a DH, and that's all he did. He didn't play defense; he was a DH, but he was a cohesive unit in the clubhouse. He pulled the guys together as a team, but he also instigated animosity too. So he was the big needle in the Royals clubhouse for the 5 years I was there. He caused the atmosphere to get better.
Yeah, he seemed like the kind of guy that gave the Royals that edge, that a lot of teams didn't have. The killer instinct kind of thing.
Well, it's so funny that he had a killer instinct in poker too. I played poker with him every flight for 5 straight years.
Oh boy,
I liked him playing poker because his mannerisms are easy to read. I used to know what he had.
Are you confident that baseball can return to some sort of normalcy for this season with this virus that's going on? How would you feel if you were a player these days and they were trying to get you back on the field? Would you be for it? Would you be nervous?
Oh boy. Well, I played in empty stadiums for 7 years in the minor leagues, but so it has nothing to do with the fans.
Right.
I know what it's like to play in an empty stadium. I will say this: I don't know the head of the union on the players' side because, if you got 600 players in the big leagues, you're going to have 600 personalities and 600 guys that want money this, they want money that, they don't want to give up this, they don't want that. Everybody's going to have a different opinion because I was a player union rep for the White Sox in one year, so I know that the personalities and the discussions are different from team to team. But I don't know. I think Tony Clark. I think he's the head of the baseball players union now.
Yeah.
I think
That's correct. Yeah.
And then you got some new owners that have just joined the group. We have a new owner here in Kansas City. He's in negotiations with the rest of the owners about what to do, how to move forward. And I don't really follow it that closely because it's like I got more things to worry about than whether a pro athlete gets his paycheck or not. Really, I'm serious. I mean, have we really? I mean, we all love baseball. We love our sports. But hey, if you're letting that keep you from being happy, you're just wasting time. Go find something else to make you happy. Anyway, I'm saying this to you right now. I will. It'll surprise me if there's Major League Baseball this year, because I don't want to get into it because this I get free tickets to the Royals and I get free parking, so I can't say anything that's going to mess up my free tickets. But when you're negotiating with so many people, and you have such a big question mark that's affected your game, you can't expect them to negotiate in good faith, really, either side, really, because there's too many. There's just. And they've wasted time, right now they're probably waiting for one of the. They're probably giving and taking right now. But I just say this: that when I see a player like the pitcher down there in Tampa Bay coming out and making an idiotic statement about he wants to get what he signed for, I thinking, wait a minute, where are these players coming from? They make more in a week than I made in the whole season, some of them.
Right.
And I'm not saying I'm begrudging them for getting what they got, but don't put yourself above the union. Without Marvin Miller and the union, I wouldn't be talking to you guys. It was because of the union and the strength of our union that I was even able to leave the Yankees and go sign with the White Sox. Right. So when I see these players that they're all making $5,000 a week, I think that's their unemployment money, $5,000 a week, I think, and I don't begrudge that either. But when you're making $7 million a year, you haven't budgeted properly if you can't wait until next spring to play. And I just I don't have good vibes about it. I wish I did, but I don't because I've been there. I know what happens.
Yeah.
I hope both sides win, and we have baseball. I would like, even if it's an empty stadium here at Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City, I want to see the game being played, but it won't be the same. It can't be.
Greg, getting to hopefully if we do have a season, could you give us a little your expertise in handicapping the that division, the White Sox and the Royals and the Indians?
Well, on our team, we had a lot of growth among our players over the last couple of years. This Hunter Dozier has become a real great player for the Royals. Whit Merrifield is, we all know what Whit Merrifield has done. And then Soler came out of, being on a bubble to now.
Was he a top? I never heard of him before.
Well, he was with the Cubs. He came over for Davis. We sent a reliever up there, Davis, for
Wade Davis.
Wade
yeah,
Davis.
Wade Davis. And you know, people were questioning whether Soler was going to do anything, but I mean, you don't hit 40 home runs without the stroke. You know, he's got the stroke. So the Royals have come forward, but in my opinion, the way to win baseball in the major leagues, if I was going to be a general manager or a manager, I'd want a team that could pitch and defend. Those are the first two that I'd have to have, because you can get 8 runs a game, but if you let in 9, big deal, you know. So I think the Royals they have some young pitching coming up. It would have been nice to see them as one of the surprise teams with Chicago White Sox. My old team. I played there 4 years. I follow them. I see what they're doing. I know Mr. Reinsdorf there, and I think the White Sox had a lot to look forward to based on some of the acquisitions they made over the winter, some of the free agents. But who knows what's going to happen? I don't know. I think that would have been, as it's been for a while, a pretty good division. You know, with the Twins and you know the Tigers were there for a little bit, but I think that had we not had this virus, that I would have probably taken the Yankees and the Dodgers in the World Series. It's almost like it was almost like, why not? You know, why not? It was like, oh my gosh, what a lineup.
Yeah.
What about Salvi Perez? How's he doing? Have you heard anything?
Oh yeah, you know, it really hurt the Royals to be without him all last year. It was crushing, really. He's one of the most unique players. I haven't spent much time around him. I just know his personality, and he's absolutely a great guy for the clubhouse. Plus, an all-star talent. You can't beat it when they're good in the clubhouse and they're all-stars on the field. What else could you want?
Is he going to be healthy enough to play when they come back, you think?
Yeah, that was a question mark that we were all waiting to find out. You know, I don't know. We never got a chance to find out.
Gotcha. I wanted to ask you one more question.
Sure.
Regarding the Pine Tar game. How did that, I mean, obviously that was the most ridiculous thing that ever happened.
It's so funny. I was out in LA about 5 months ago, and I was riding in an Uber, and this guy was driving. I said, "Hey, are you a baseball fan?" He goes, "I'm a huge baseball fan." I said, "What team do you like?" He goes, "The Dodgers, man." I said, "Have you ever heard of the Pine Tar game?" Because I was going to tell him I played in the Pine Tar game. He goes, "The Pine Tar what?" We need to keep the Pine Tar game alive. People are forgetting it, you know, because those of you who don't know what the Pine Tar game is, I was with the Kansas City Royals. We're playing in New York against the Yankees. It's a day game. It was getaway day, and we were losing to the Yankees by 1 run with 2 outs in the top of the 9th. George Brett's hitting with a man on first. George Brett hit the home run off of Gossage into the right field seat. So that means we're up by 1 run. As George is rounding the bases, I could see something happening around home plate. George crosses home plate. They grab the bat. The umpires are looking at the bat. They laid the bat down on home plate. And obviously George's bat had too much pine tar between the label and the barrel for the umpires. The rule was that if you have a foreign substance in the area there, you have to call him out. Well, they did call him out, but I'm just saying this: the best thing that Tim McClelland and Joe Brinkman could have done that game was to say the bat is fine, let the game finish, send the protest to Lee McPhail, let Lee McPhail decide. You know, they put Lee McPhail in a bad position. They could have just let the game finish. The Yankees could have protested, and the protest would have been in our favor. We wouldn't have had to go back in to finish the game, because
right.
now that they called George out, I was out in the bullpen. It's the only time in my 16 years as being paid to be a ball player I was in the bullpen. And the reason I was in the bullpen that game, during the game, was we had John Wathan and Don Slott were our catchers. They were both in the game, and there was only one bullpen catcher. So Hauser yelled at me, goes, "Pryor, I need you to go warm up Don Hood in the outfield. I might have to bring him in the bottom of the ninth if we tie the game up." So I'm walking across Yankee Stadium in left field. I'm walking by the monuments, and it was kind of a nice diversion for me. I got out of the dugout, you know, So I'm out there warming up Don Hood when George hit the home run. I watched the ball right from the Yankee bullpen. So as I'm getting toward the dugout after the game was over, or we thought it was over, you can see there's a video or a picture of me walking in the dugout when George was getting his stuff. So I go in the clubhouse and I try to get into my locker, and it was like 50 reporters already waiting for George to come in. They were all and I locker next to George. I couldn't get near my locker, even to sit down. They were all packed in there.
Was he still mad? Because he went nuts. He went nuts.
Oh yeah,
over mad.
He was mad for 45 minutes. So after 45 minutes or so, I finally was able to go sit next to my locker, and he had his head down right next to me. And I said, well, enough's enough, come on. So I looked at him. I said, hey, dude, what's wrong? What's wrong with you right now? He goes, what do you mean? I lost a home run. We lost the game. I said, you're going to get so much money out of this deal. He goes, what do you mean? I said, some pine tar company is going to give you $200,000 to endorse pine tar. You're going to get a great pine tar endorsement. He goes, what a great idea. He said, where are we going to go eat?
All right, so the book is called The Day the Yankees Made Me Shave. It's right there.
That's the website too. The Day the Yankees Made Me Shave.com.
The Day the Yankees Made Me Shave.com.
Yeah.
We'll put that in our comments. We'll blast that out on social media. I have it ordered. I can't wait for it to get here. If the stories are half as good in the book as you shared here on the air with us, it should be a very fun and interesting read.
Let me tell you what I'm doing right now for a living.
Go ahead.
The book was written because I have grandchildren, and my grandpa played in 1912 in Duffy, Ohio, and he never left any stories. So my youngest daughter asked me to start jotting down stories. So I came up with these stories, and I decided to write this book. It took me like 3 years, but I have a second book planned, but I got to sell more books now so I can write my second book. So
Gotcha.
that's basically why I wrote the book, is because if these stories don't stay alive, they're all going to die, and I wanted my stories. One of my stories is the day that a pitcher tried to kill me. I love to tell that story because it's about my good friend Ed Farmer, who announced for the White Sox for many, many years. And we lost Ed recently. He passed away, but I wrote that story about Ed Farmer, and I sent it to Ed about what he did to me that night. He goes, Pryor, go ahead and print the story. It's exactly how you said it. But let me tell you what I'm doing now. I've got a company called Life Priority. It's a health and nutrition company, and you might wonder how a 70-year-old keeps his senses. Well, looky here. This is two of my products. One of them's Lift, and one of them's Mind. Let me get them up here so you can see them.
Yep, Lift. There it is.
Lift and Mind, and that's. Can you put up on the website lifepriority.com?
Yeah.
This one is for the Mind. Lift is for mental energy, and the Mind is for mental clarity. And they're powders. And I've been selling them for like 25 years. So if people want to know what I'm doing for a living, go to lifepriority.com, and I'll be glad to help you.
Will do. Well,
We'll definitely do that.
Thank you so much for coming on. Have a great rest of your Memorial Day. We'll be in touch. We'll get you some merchandise.
Appreciate it.
We'll push your book and your life priority there. No problem.
Okay, thank you, and hopefully we see baseball real soon.
We hope so.
Yes.
Can't wait.
Thank you.
Brad.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you, Greg. Mr. Greg Pryor, Kansas City Royal, Chicago White Sox, Texas Ranger.
World champion.
85 world champion.
Hey, next time I'll bring my ring.
There you go.
Good idea. Awesome.
Hey.
Okay.
See ya.
Okay. Take care.
Right. Well, a great interview there from Greg. A lot of stories. The baseball stories, I mean, we've had really good guests here on the Sports Hounds the past couple weeks, but they've been hockey guests. To me, nothing beats the camaraderie and the potential stories and the male bonding that being on a baseball team brings. All due respect to hockey and football and basketball.
Agreed.
Baseball
is you know all the players, especially when you know all the players.
Right.
I mean, we all know Bo Jackson. You know,
yes.
and you talk about some of the guys he was talking about. It was just great to hear all those guys again.
Yeah,
You know,
George Brett. I mean, the Pine Tar game. He's in Disco Demolition. I mean, this guy, Greg Pryor, man, he's steeped. I mean, he's steeped in like all these controversies and big moments through the late 70s and the 1980s. I mean, he played against your Yankees. He played against some Dodgers teams. Of course, the Phillies beat the Royals in the 1980 World Series. The famous Tug McGraw closing them out. So that's great.
he wasn't on the team then. I think he was on 81. He got
No?
No, he was on the White Sox. He was on the White Sox then, I think. I think he went to the Royals in 81, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I thought he was on the 80 team. Well, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, I could be wrong. I mean,
I mean that's fine. The point. A great interview, a great guest, a great person coming on us Memorial Day.
You know what? And you could tell he loves it. I mean, you know what? He's a good guy. He was one of those gritty type of players. Played all around the infield. I think he was primarily a shortstop with the White Sox, but when he came to Kansas City, I mean, his role was to play all over the infield.
Yeah.
And I remember he did do some pinch hitting and pinch running and, that sort of thing.
Yeah, a great interview. I can't wait to get my hands on that book.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, definitely.
Real character.
I mean, he seriously, I had to try to not crack up during that interview. He was hilarious.
Which part?
The whole
a lot of them.
I mean, he had me dying laughing. The part.
I mean, it's just great because I'm surprised he's not a color analyst.
Yeah, he's terrific.
The way we just gave him, one little tidbit to go on, and he would go. I mean, we had him on for 45 minutes,
and he didn't mind.
No, not at all.
No, what a terrific guy.
He did mind. He certainly didn't show it.
So, no, not at all. Not at all. I mean,
the name of the book is "The Day the Yankees Made Me Shave: A Baseball Autobiography." Story of Greg Pryor. You can visit thedaytheyankeesmademeshave.com and also check out his life priority products for have a sound mind and sound body as well.
Tell you what, for 70 years old, he looks pretty terrific.
Terrific.
I was talking to him this morning. When I instant messaged him to verify everything, I ended up by accident doing one of those facial things.
Yeah, the FaceTime.
Yeah, I accidentally FaceTimed him, and he was, and I felt really bad. He said I needed a break anyway, and we talked for about 15, 20 minutes, and he was out there doing yard work, and it was like 7:30 in the morning.
But he's a guy. I mean,
boy, I'll tell you what,
he's a champion. He's a champion, but he's an undrafted guy. You heard his Steinbrenner story.
Yep.
Great stuff. I thought it was interesting. First off, his tidbits on Bo Jackson were fascinating and had me glued to my seat here. But I thought it was interesting that he kind of gets the vibe that baseball's not going to be back.
Yeah, I mean that's what he kind of inferred. That
I kind of share his vibes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm worried about it too.
I mean, they're supposed to. The Tony Clark and the union, they're supposed to counter MLB's proposal tomorrow, Tuesday, after the holidays. So hopefully we're kind of getting it. We got to get these guys in spring training, Brad. If they want to start on July 4th as planned, we got to get these guys in spring training.
You got to get them in no later than June 1st. You really do. I mean, the pitchers are going to need six weeks to get themselves ready.
I mean, they got to iron out. Are we playing 80 games? Are we playing 90 games? Are we playing 130 games? Are we playing in November? Are we playing at neutral sites? Are we going to be able to play in the city? It's just so much to.
Well, you also have to remember a lot of these guys are foreign players, and when they come in, they're gonna have to come in and they're gonna have to they're gonna have to make sure that they're healthy. They're gonna have to quarantine for a couple of weeks. I mean, there's a lot going on right now.
Yeah.
and God forbid the guys from South America, with Venezuela, with the virus, that they may not even let them in the country. Who knows?
Now they're making special exemptions for basketball and hockey players. I read.
Okay.
They're allowed to come in, whereas obviously there's no international travel right now.
You would think they probably would let soccer players come in too.
Right. They cited they basically said that the country needs sports for economy purposes and community purposes and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see if baseball follows that.
You could only hope so. I'll tell you what. Greg seemed pretty excited about the Royals. I mean,
they have pieces there in Kansas City.
I know they do.
They're kind of the whipping. They don't spend any money. They're a small market team, but they have Alberto Mondesi, who's a pretty good looking player. He's got an interesting skill set.
If Perez comes back and plays and is effective,
Perez tremendous.
They need. I mean, just settle down those young pitchers. I mean, that's
their problem right now, I think, in Kansas City is the pitching part of it. Because you got Merrifield, who we mentioned. You have Mondesi, who we mentioned. Hunter Dozier, who we mentioned. And Soler, who we mentioned. I mean, that's some pop. That's some thunder in there.
They can hit, but they just I mean, Danny Duffy had a terrible year. Who knows what's going to happen with him?
Yeah.
Him. And the rest of the staff, I mean, Jacob Junis hasn't really been able to.
No, he hasn't really.
He's been a big disappointment. It seems like every time it looks like he's going to really come back and become a good pitcher, he seems to always take a step back. And the rest of the guys they're young. But you really need that good veteran catcher behind home plate to stay.
It'll help a lot.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah. I thought maybe he might know what was going on with him because I know he had a bad knee injury last year, and I hadn't heard anything about him at all.
Yeah. No, I mean,
sounds like it's still
hard right now because these team doctors, they can't look at.
Yeah, that's right.
You can't do anything.
That's why nobody seems to know what's going on with Aaron Judge. I mean, that's another
Judge and the Yankees are going to be fine. And then he spoke. I mean, I've been singing the White Sox praises with what they're building there in Chicago for a couple of years now. I think, Brad, and he was right there with me.
Yeah. Oh God, they're looking
at those young players. You got Giolito and Dallas Keuchel comes in. So,
but then you look at their everyday players. They got a lot of good young players.
And Moncada, Jose Abreu, Luis Robert. I mean, Luis Robert's unproven, but he certainly looks like a hot shot prospect.
That guy Anderson was leading the league.
And Anderson hit 330 last year. Guys don't hit 330 this year. It just doesn't happen.
No. I don't think he didn't lead the league in hitting, but he was damn close.
I think he finished second.
Yeah, because LeMahieu hit 329 and he was third. So I can't remember who won the batting championship last year.
Someone will help us. Someone will help us in the chat. Maybe it was Anderson. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Anderson had a tremendous year. That team can really hit. And they got some good young sticks on that team. And now that they've got Keuchel and they'll have Giolito should have a lot of confidence. That team's going to be tough. It's just
and they bring Grandal in as a catcher.
Yep. It's too bad that Rondon isn't going to be part of it because he had Tommy John, so he's probably not.
Oh, I mean, he'll be back. I think he was slated to come back in July. He might be able to start.
He could probably come out of the
bullpen, but I mean, it's good stuff, and that's always. I mean, the Twins are kind of really established themselves there in that AL Central, but
you know what? I have to give them credit. They finally opened up the pocketbook. And kept their good players, didn't get rid of them, and brought in more talent. So
they bring in Donaldson.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
this is a team that hit more home runs than the Yankees last year in the regular season.
Yes, they did.
And you bring in Donaldson to that. I mean, they could really put. Yeah,
they don't have Nelson Cruz anymore, do they?
They do have Nelson Cruz, yeah.
Have him? Okay. So he's still. So Donaldson's going to have
Nelson Cruz, and they have maybe one of my favorite non-Phillies players in Eddie Rosario, who I think
Eddie Rosario is a tremendous player.
guy hits
You and I are
40 home runs and he doesn't strike out.
Yeah, I know. You and I are always trying to fight over him with the fantasy.
No, I had him last year. Hopefully we can
I
get
had him the year before.
hopefully we can get a plan. Hopefully we can get a plan and get a fantasy draft going. Have a fantasy baseball preview show. Maybe get some of the other personalities at A2D here involved in it.
That would be awesome.
But anyway, this is the Sports Hounds. This is A2D Radio. It is a happy Memorial Day edition of the Sports Hounds. As always, we're brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy, Dr. Paul Vidal, 3 convenient locations. Visit specializedphysicaltherapy.com. Ambuck Services, another one of our great sponsors. They are the porch, deck, and gutter experts of South Jersey. Visit ambuckservices.com for all their services. We're live on Facebook. We're live on Periscope. We're live on Twitter. We're live everywhere. Everywhere. You name it, we're on it. If you miss us, stream it. iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Google Play, Spotify. A2D Radio is everywhere. We're the fastest growing sports media company in the country. Don't get left out. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell the world about A2D Radio. But Brad, we are inching closer to sports.
I certainly hope so.
Basketball and hockey have plans. It looks like basketball kind of in the beginning stages of their plan, but hockey looks like they're raring to go. They have a 24-team format, playoff format laid out. Rangers, Flyers, both involved. Brings us to our poll question tonight. The Philadelphia Flyers will win the Stanley Cup. Hashtag agree. Hashtag disagree. The one thing, I'm just going to agree. I'm a Flyers fan. I'm a Philly 4-for-4 fan. I'm going to agree. I thought they were playing really well going into the quarantine. Hopefully they can harness that, get healthy, hit the ground running in this format. I will say that the Flyers, under the format, do have a bye, so they don't have to play that first 5-game series. So I think that's
but that could be that may not be a blessing.
Yeah, I knew you were going to make that. How did I know you were going to make that argument? Because
only because they haven't played in 2 months. That's
I get you.
You know, I mean, I think that they're a very deep and talented team, the Flyers.
Yes.
But I'm just looking at the team they may have to play, which is most likely going to be the Pittsburgh Penguins in their first series. And the Penguins are going to get 3 games to demolish Montreal and get their game going. They're going to have Jake Getzel back, which is really not going to be good for the Flyers. And
that's not going to be good for anyone in the Eastern Conference.
No, and to have to play them in the first round, and they're going to be, they're going to have a few games under their belt. That's going to be a very tough call for the Philadelphia Flyers in the first round, no question. Because I mean, unless you think Montreal is going to knock off the Penguins, which I just don't see.
No, I would say
Montreal is a garbage team, Montreal is a garbage team, and they only had 71 points. I mean, that's not a team that should be in the playoffs.
This is why I'm not thrilled with the watered down playoffs. This is why I'm against, for the most part, relatively speaking, I'm against playoff expansion.
I mean, I'm okay. Listen, I'm okay with the top 11, and I mean, as far as the Rangers are concerned, and I know it sounds like I'm being a Ranger, just being a Ranger fan, but the Rangers were, 9 games over 500. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, that's a team that deserves to be in the playoffs. A team that's like 6 or 7 games under 500. I'm sorry, but Montreal's they're gonna put them in, just like they're gonna put the Blackhawks in, and the Blackhawks were pretty lousy this year too. So, Pittsburgh's gonna get that chance. Personally, I don't think the Flyers are gonna win the Cup. I think that there's just between the Bruins, the Tampa Bay Lightning, if they can win the first round, which is always a mystery for them, and the Capitals, and then having to play the Penguins in the first round, that's going to be that's a tough go for them. It's going to be tough. I mean, they're not going to have they're not going to have an easy way in. That's for sure. It's going to be real tough for them because the four spot is probably the toughest spot that they're going to be in, because if they can get past if they get past Pittsburgh and form holds, they're going to end up having to play. They're going to have to play Boston in the next round. And if form continues to hold, if they win, then they're going to have to play Tampa Bay. I mean, or Washington. I know they had success against Washington, but Tampa Bay, they really had their problems with. It's going to be it's just going to be hard for them.
I'm trying to bring up the bracket here.
The road is going to. Well, I've already checked. I've already seen the bracket. It's going to be tough.
I want to go through it and discuss it, because we got the Western Conference too, and it seems like hockey. Seems like they're the closest.
Yeah, they're just about there. I mean,
it looks like they're just dotting the I's and crossing the T's.
They're just trying to figure out how to get all the guys back out of Europe and quarantine them and dot the I's and cross the T's, as you said. That's really where it's at right now for them. They're almost there. But I mean, I haven't really checked the West, but I was checking the East. It's going to be tough for the Flyers. They're in it. The 4-hole is a tough spot for them to be in. It just is. They're not. They're going to end up. They're probably going to end up, as I said, playing the Penguins. The Penguins for most of the season didn't have Gensel. They're going to have him in the playoffs. That's not going to be easy. I mean, the guy's a 40-goal scorer, and now you put him in their lineup. I mean, what it's going to come down to for the Flyers is it's going to be how is Murray play for the Penguins between the pipes, and how does Carter Hart play for the Flyers? I mean, how is the rest going to affect the goalies? Because that's really where it's going to come in, and that's going to be the key.
And it also looks like, obviously there's not going to be any fans, and it looks like that they're going to be playing in Vegas or Florida or someplace like that.
No, and I think the one thing the Flyers home crowd. I mean, if you look at how good the Flyers were at home, I mean, they were just unbelievable at home, and they're not going to have that advantage. But the one thing I would say is that Alain Vigneault is still going to have the final change in three of the 7 games. So that's going to matter for something too. He could still get his matchups. So, and the one thing I would say, if the Flyers play the Penguins, I don't think the Flyers' elite talent is as good as the Penguins' elite talent. I think they're a more dependable, deeper team than the Penguins. Meaning that I think the bottom 6 for the Penguins are not as good as the Flyers' bottom 6. And if the Flyers play the Penguins, I think that's where they have to win. Because obviously the first two lines for the Penguins, first 2 lines for the Flyers, the Penguins have to have a slight edge there.
Is it safe to say, Brad, that the Eastern Conference is going to be a tougher gauntlet than the Western Conference, or do you see them as equal? How do you handicap?
No, I think the East is better. I think the East is a lot better than the West this year. I mean, the West to me, St. Louis is beatable. They're a good team. Don't get me wrong, but they're beatable. And I mean, you're going to have your same suspects. Dallas is going to be tough. I
like Colorado. I like Colorado a lot. Obviously,
Colorado. I don't know what the deal is with Grubauer. If Grubauer can come back and play goal for them and be effective, that team might have the most talent overall. But the thing is, this rest thing. I mean, the one disadvantage the St. Louis Blues had going into the playoffs this year was how tired the team was probably going to be from last year's run and then having another run. But, having 2 months left now, they're going to be fresh for the playoffs, and that's going to really help them. So that's going to give them a better opportunity, I think, to be able to repeat. But I don't see them doing the same thing they did last year. That was a magical run, and I don't think that they can repeat that. I would be more concerned about Colorado, just like you. I think that's the team to beat in the West right now.
That was my pick. I picked when we did our predictions.
Well, I think I picked Washington and Colorado in the Stanley Cup final.
I think we picked the same.
Yes, and I had Washington winning it, and you had Colorado winning it.
At how I differentiated myself. I can't seem to find this format on the playoffs, but but like a team like Nashville.
Nashville just never has enough offense.
Yeah, and they don't have Lavi anymore. And
no, I mean, listen, I don't believe in them. I just don't. I don't like them at all. I don't think that. I think Winnipeg's got a better. I think Winnipeg has a better chance than Nashville. But honestly, I thought Winnipeg kind of underachieved this season during the regular season. But Winnipeg is loaded with talent, and they have a real good goalie in Connor Hellebuck. So you got to.
And we got some comments here. Some hockey talk. Brad really knows his hockey. That's from Bob Brinkman. Bob Brinkman also says, just be happy to have some competitive sports to watch.
Oh, absolutely. But Stanley Cup hockey, the playoffs, they're great. I mean, if you guys, even if you're, moderate hockey fans, you're not hardcore like say me. The hockey playoffs are really intense. They really are. I mean, the tempers are always edgy. It always, the longer a series goes, the meaner and nastier it gets. So, that's something you definitely have to consider. I saw the little comment there about Tampa Bay winning it all. How about if Tampa Bay wins a playoff game?
Yeah, we gotta get Tampa in the second round.
Yeah. How about the winning playoff game? Just winning one. Last year they had one of the greatest teams in history record wise, and then they didn't even win a game against the Columbus Blue Jackets. So, let's
right out of there.
Yeah, I mentioned it before. If Tampa Bay gets past the first round, watch out. But they're not exactly the most dependable team to be playing.
Well, I mean, it's Stamkos though. Like Stamkos, he's a tremendous player, but it's always something with this guy. He's always hurt or banged up.
He's gonna be playing now. He's healthy now.
Well, yeah, I mean you have Stamkos rested, you have Crosby rested, you have Malkin rested, you have Gunsel rested, you have Ovechkin and all those veterans in Washington rested. So
some of the teams that are a little older are going to have
really benefit.
Are going to have big time legs this year. That's going to be a huge factor.
Would you favor a veteran squad over, say, a younger team like the Flyers? Not that the Flyers don't have veterans, but for the most part, they rely on.
The Flyers have enough veterans on their team, and they have a veteran coach who's been to the Stanley Cup Finals twice. So, I mean, they should be okay as far as that's concerned. I don't think the bright lights of the playoffs are going to really affect them that much. I just would be concerned because it's going to be very difficult to go up against that gauntlet. I mean, it's almost not fair that they're going to have to go up against Pittsburgh, probably the Bruins, and then possibly Tampa Bay if Tampa Bay doesn't spit it out, or the Capitals. I mean, back to back. Wow. Listen, the Capitals aren't going to have it so easy either. I love the Rangers in the matchup against Carolina. I love that. I
do too. I think the Rangers should be okay there.
The Rangers beat the hell out of them this season. I mean,
all four games, right?
Yeah, and every time they played Carolina, they got under their skin. Carolina they committed stupid penalties, and Zibanejad and Panarin went nuts against them. So, that's a great matchup for the Rangers. And, the Rangers did win 2 out of 3 against the Capitals, too. So don't count out the Rangers to give the Capitals a heck of a battle. I just don't know if that team is ready to go into a series against an experienced team like the Washington Capitals, especially after they lost in the first round to the Hurricanes last year. To beat a team like that in the playoffs, that's going to be very, very – that's asking a lot. Because I know the Rangers are a young team just like the Flyers, but the difference is their coaches never coached a playoff game, and a lot of those young players haven't played in the playoffs. So that's a big ask at this point.
Mike Harbs checks in. He doesn't think Dallas is going to be tough at all. He thinks the Avs are going to beat. He thinks the Avs are better than the Stars.
I agree. But the Stars, you always have to respect the Stars because they still have two of the deadliest players of the game in Jamie Benn and
I love Jamie Benn.
And Tyler Seguin.
Seguin is awesome.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You still have two of the best players in the game playing there, and if they're both on top of their game, that team could beat anybody.
I got a couple futures bets. I got a couple live futures bets on hockey. So I'm glad they're getting going. I mean, I have Washington. Let me see if I can bring it up here. See if I remember my logins.
We got Chrome asking, "What's up, Mr. Chrome?" I did ask. I did ask for.
Yeah, we didn't ask about Don Denkinger.
Yeah, we didn't talk about Don Denkinger, but we did ask about the Pine Tar game. So I hope you're satisfied.
Well, the Pine Tar, Chrome, easy going, Chrome.
Well, he was. I guess
Did you
he
catch
was.
That interview they had with Ken Shamrock. While I look this up here on my phone.
I did not get a chance to go in the other day,
What a great! I felt like I wanted to run through a wall after.
I mean, wrestlers are great. They really are. They are
stories. Hold on. Because I have the Flyers, the Avalanche, and the Capitals, I think. Here it is. I play.
I think you've got a golden opportunity there. The only way the Flyers could play.
I'm lucky. I got some of my NCAA wagers forgiven since they didn't play the tournament.
The only way the Flyers could play the Capitals in the playoffs is if they play them in the conference finals. So if you can get them to the conference finals, you're guaranteed to have one of them in the final.
Yeah,
and you gotta love Colorado.
Well, ideally, I want the Avalanche to win the West.
I think they're the best all-around team in the West.
Who's that?
Yeah. Colorado. They're a terrific team.
Colorado.
Yeah, they're really good. The only reason they had problems towards the end of the season is because I think they were using their number 3 or number 4 goalie. They were having goalie problems because their goalies were all getting hurt. So I think they were like on goalie number 3 or goalie number 4. I can't remember now.
All right, so preseason, I took the Washington Capitals $55 to win $935.
Wow, nice.
The Colorado, that's 17-1. I took also preseason. I took the Colorado Avalanche at 13-1, $55 to win $715. And then looks like on February 22nd, kind of right before the old Rona struck, I took the Flyers at 23.5-1, $40 to win $940. So I'm liking those bets. I'm feeling pretty good about those bets, Brad.
Oh, yeah. Listen, the key is somebody has to knock out Boston. Because Boston clearly is the team to beat this year. And if you can,
the Flyers fared well with the Flyers have fared well with Blair's Chrome. We all know what happened in 1985. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. Yeah, I think Greg would probably have had a smart remark for you there, Chrome.
Yeah, but I mean, that Cardinals team was good because they had all that speed at the top.
Yeah, no, I know they did. I hated that team though.
They had Coleman. Coleman was one of them, and they had another.
I can't stand teams that run. Teams that run annoy me.
Oh, it's so much fun. And all the stadiums had that goofy turf like they had at the Vet. So they carry the ball on the ground and just run.
Well, I remember they had McGee and they had McGee.
The slap hitters.
Yeah.
Whitey ball, yes, Chrome. Yeah, like you had like the slap hitters like Ichiro. Like no one's a slap hitter now.
Ozzie Smith was a slap hitter too.
Yeah.
You know, he put the ball on the ground and used his legs. I think the only real power hitter they had was George Hendrick back then, right?
I think you and Chrome could speak to that more than me. I'm an '89 baby.
Okay, yeah, I think that was mostly. I'm trying to remember who was the power. I think George Hendrick was the power hitter on that team, but that was a while ago.
But like, could you imagine a team playing whitey ball in 2020?
They might do well. You never know. I mean, listen, those
Well,
guys.
they would be ostracized because
Would, but that doesn't mean they wouldn't win.
I understand that, but
You could win.
Nobody even runs anymore.
I realize that, but if you're telling me that you have a team that steals a zillion bases, and every time a team gets a single, it ends up being a double, and it putting pressure on the defense, and it got a lot of guys who don't strike out and put pressure. Listen, the Kansas City Royals
They won the whole thing. Pryor's old team, they won the whole thing. What was it, 2010?
When did the Royals win?
They got there. They got there.
The Kansas City Royals won a championship in 2016?
Did they win in 2016? Because they lost.
They beat the Mets, remember? 2015. Okay, thank you.
What did Frank chime in? 2000.
Yeah, Frank put it in there.
They beat the Mets.
Yeah, they beat the Mets in the World Series. Remember? They won 4-1.
No, I don't remember that at all. Who was on?
The big controversy was that the Mets let Matt Harvey pitch the 9th inning after throwing a 2-hit shutout in 8 innings, and they didn't bring in their bullpen, and they let Harvey go out there for the 9th, and Harvey gave it up in the 9th inning. That was like the big controversy.
Right, because I remember they played in Game 7 against the Giants, and Bumgarner shut them down.
Right. Then the next year, the Royals got there, and they played the Mets, who had beaten the Dodgers, and the Mets lost that series 4-1.
For the 2015 Mets.
Right.
So this was a National League champion.
So all those pitchers.
Duda, Murphy, Michael Kadire, Cespedes, Conforto, David Wright. Who did they have pitching?
If you remember, Murphy had an unbelievable playoff. Remember David Murphy?
Then they let him go. Then they let him go.
Yeah, Daniel Murphy.
Oh, that's right, because he made all them errors.
Right. Well, he wasn't a good fielder, but he could hit a ton.
Yeah, he made all like really bad errors.
They had a heck of a pitching.
They got there with their pitching.
Yeah.
Rom, Harvey, Syndergaard, Big Sexy, Bartolo Colon,
Steven Matz, I think Wheeler. I mean, they had one hell of a pitching staff that year.
Wheeler wasn't there yet.
Wheeler was hurt. That's right. He was hurt.
Wheeler's not listed here, I should say. He might have been.
He was injured.
Clippard. Oh, here's Matz. Matz was a bullpen guy.
Oh, okay. So what? Big Sexy was the number 4 pitcher,
5th starter, I guess. 4th, 5th starter,
something like that. But they had the big 3 though. I mean, they had those 3 great pitchers though with Harvey, Syndergaard, and DeGrom. I mean, they were great back then. Yeah, that was before Harvey got all those injuries and fizzled out. If you're he was a big time pitcher.
Chrome checks in. Wow, Whitey Ball was perfect for the turf and cookie cutter stadiums. Keith Hernandez was on that team.
Yes, he was. That's right.
He wasn't really a power hitter. Hendricks was kind of the more power.
Yeah, George Hendrick was a good hitter.
Chrome doesn't think that would work in today's game.
I think it would work in any game because you know what? Speed will kill, but if you're going to do it, you still have to have at least 1 or 2 guys that can hit the ball out of the park. You have to have real good pitching. You have to be a real good. See, the thing with speed also works defensively too.
Yes,
and that's I think the Cardinals defensively were a terrific team.
They always are.
Yeah,
even today.
Yeah, they're still pretty good defensively today too. You're right.
And then Chrome loves him some Big Sexy. Yeah, everybody loves Big Sexy. He's on the Mets, and I can't get enough of Big Sexy. Remember he hit a home run?
Yes, I did.
Remember he hit a home run?
Yeah, it was against the Padres. That was hilarious.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got the hockey talk. We got the Flyers. Are they going to win the Stanley Cup? That's our poll question. I think they got a real shot. I really do.
I just think I think if they would have had,
it's going to be really tough. I get it.
yeah, I think that it's just because of who they're playing. If there could be some upsets in the second round, so that they don't have to go through the Penguins and then Tampa and Boston and then Tampa or Washington, those 3 straight rounds. If they can avoid having to take that gauntlet, I think they'll be okay. But if they have to go through that gauntlet, that's asking an awful lot.
Well, I mean, those teams have to go through the Flyers too. I mean, they should be sent the A2D version of Washington.
I understand
or wherever.
I do understand that. They're going to have a substantially easier. I mean, look at it this way: who would you rather play? Would you rather play the the Islanders or the in the first round, they're going to end up playing the Penguins. They don't get to play the Maple Leafs or the Panthers or the Islanders or one of those teams. They're going to end up having to play Pittsburgh. That's no bargain.
Not at all. Look at, I guess it's Jai Harris. He's watching from the United Kingdom. We're in Europe.
Nice.
Takeover's real, everyone. If you're not following A2D, tell them to start. Tell all your friends, Jai Harris. Tell all your friends to watch as well. But I'm optimistic on the Flyers. Another Philadelphia team, Philadelphia 76ers. Brad, a team that I'm not as confident in. If they're going to redo this,
I don't know. I mean, they're such a strange team.
Well, have you seen the new proposal for the NBA?
What is it? The top 16, right?
The top 16 teams, regardless, it's just a 16-team tournament, whatever, best of 5, best of 3, best of 7, whatever they decide to do. But conferences don't matter. It's just
who would they have to play in the first round?
Boston. So I would have them out right away.
That's not a good matchup.
And then if they were to win that series somehow, some way, they would have to play the Clippers in the second round.
No, that's
so the Sixers would be in this, I guess, hypothetical playoff format, which looks like it's going to become fact as opposed to fiction. Looks like they're going to be playing these games at the Worldwide of Sports in Disney and Orlando, kind of like AAU format. But yeah, the Sixers would be the 5 seed playing the 12 seeded Celtics in the first round. I would not like the Sixers matchups in that chances in that matchup at all. I think they'd be going home. I don't think Boston would even have really that difficult of a time with the Sixers. I just think Boston's better. They're better coached. They're
well, because there's no home court advantage. That also you have to take that into play too. They're going to be playing on a neutral court because the Sixers are good at home.
Correct.
They're just horrible on the road.
That steals their thunder.
Yeah, that's the problem. If they were a little bit better on the road, because all these games are going to be like road games for them because there's going to be no fans in the stands. And I'm not sure in the NBA if they have any. Do they have any built-in advantages for being the home team? Like in hockey, you have you can put up, you get to change.
Yeah, you get the last change,
and also on the face-offs, the visiting team has to put their stick down first on the face-offs.
Right.
Which is a huge advantage on face-offs.
Nothing really to that extent.
Yeah, I didn't think so. I didn't know if there was
it's just the crowd with basketball.
Yeah, they're right on top of you, so they make a lot of noise.
But then
so they have to play the Clippers, and then there's a good chance, if God forbid, there's a good chance, I don't know who they play in the third round, but there's a good chance they'd end up playing maybe the Lakers in the third round and the Bucks in the fourth round. If they got that far,
it'd be Milwaukee. Milwaukee's the top dog.
Boy, that's tough.
This is the proposal according to Sports Illustrated.
Okay.
Let me see if they have a picture. I need pictures.
One thing I do think is that the NBA players and the commissioner seem to get along real well. It seems like the commissioner and the NBA and the players genuinely get along. So I'd be very surprised if you didn't see the NBA wrapping things up pretty quickly. They're on the same page. It's not like the NFL where they're constantly fighting with each other all the time.
Yeah, because I can't say that for baseball with Manfred, with that how that idiot's running things
Well, he's an idiot, and I don't
over
trust
there, and
him.
no one seems to really like Bettman.
No, but in spite of him, the hockey players want to play.
I think all the players deep down want to.
Oh, I'm sure they do. Um, baseball players. Based on what I'm hearing, especially after what Greg Pryor told us, I'm concerned about baseball this year. I mean, you got to be.
I agree.
I mean, he used to be a player rep, so I mean, I know he doesn't have anything to do with it right now, but just the fact that he wasn't all that confident, that kind of makes me wonder. I mean, you can't ask him to be politically incorrect when he's still very close.
Yeah. But he knows
but I mean, I've been worried.
He's got to be careful because he's a former player and he doesn't want to rip the union. But I mean, him and Tom should maybe sit down and have a beer because Tommy Arnone, he ripped apart Blake Snell, and it didn't sound like
he didn't sound too happy with Snell.
Greg Pryor, he didn't sound too happy with Blake Snell either.
No, he didn't.
I don't know, but hearing a former player like that kind of somewhat chastise Blake Snell for his comments, it makes me feel a little better about it. Right? Because they're getting $5,000 a week for their unemployment, which I think that was accurate.
Yeah, that's
accurate. I think I've heard that as well.
Yeah, I've heard that as well too. And
like we talked last week, it's like I just think the players have to be careful that they don't get because like they're already getting paid less because they're playing less games. Everyone agreed to that,
right? And they have to understand that if there's no fans in the ballpark, they got to cut the owners a little slack there. I mean, it isn't
still like, but like it's like where do the players like at some point the union has to step up and be like, yo, this is too many cuts. Like we should still get this much money, and like you got.
I get that, but at the same point, and Kansas City is a perfect example. They make a lot of money from the gate,
right?
They do, and based on the proposals that I've seen, they're not going to get the Yankees and the Red Sox coming into Kansas City and getting those big crowds in.
No.
So that's going to hurt, and without the crowds at all, I mean.
But my only thing with these owners is this is the first time in the history of professional sports where the owners are on the wrong side of a revenue split, where they don't have the leverage, and now all of a sudden they want to throw their hands up and not actually play.
The baseball owners never have the leverage. The players beat the crap out of them every single time in baseball. They're the one sport where the players.
How do you figure that?
Because the players. I mean, if you remember in 1994,
yeah,
I mean, they got that Sotomayor lady when the owners tried to lock him out and not let him play. They lost the one season in '94.
Yeah, they canceled the World Series. It was devastating to the sport.
Right, and then in '95 they didn't start till May. And the only reason they were able to even start was because the players went and got that lady judge to get an injunction against the owners to sue to be allowed to play again. So I mean, they've gone to court and they've won. And it just seems like every time the players and the owners end up with these little fights, it always seems in baseball that the players always seem to win. It just seems like that every time. I mean,
as they should, don't you think?
Yeah, no, I think
there's no team to own without the play. I'm just
sure, but the owners.
I don't like when the owner, and you could say that in '94 when they locked them out. Every time that the baseball owners aren't, don't have the union by the balls, there's a problem. And this is a problem because they're not having their gate. They're not going to be able to buy beer and hot dogs and jerseys and hats at the stadium. You can't have those cute little promotional lights like Dollar Dog Night and bring your dog to the stadium night and all that nonsense.
No, the other problem, and don't forget the other problem, is that when you don't have fans in the ballpark, it's not just the concessions, okay?
Yeah.
It's the parking. It's the people outside the stadium and the bars across the street. I mean, the whole economy of the city is screwed up because you don't have all the people at the game. That's the other problem. I mean, and there's revenue lost everywhere, but especially with the teams. I mean, they're losing money by not having the fans there. You're losing money on the parking, on the food, on the luxury boxes, everything.
Yeah.
Everything. I mean, and that's huge. That's huge.
Bob Brinkman weighs in. I agree with Brad. They should do the percentages. If the gate is 20% of revenue, then they should accept a 20% pay cut. But didn't they already make a deal on that?
No, they did it based on the number of games played. Okay. So and even if let's say it's 20% of their gate of their money is the gate, then at least compromise, make it 10%. But it's like the players don't even want to recognize that. It's like, well,
the players want their money.
I know that, but they're already taking.
Don't you see that side of it at all?
Yeah, no, I do see that side, but here's the other problem. Okay, what happens when the luxury tax goes down to $190,000 because the owners are losing their shirts this year, and all these players next year aren't going to make shit.
Shouldn't these owners be more understanding of the fact that this is a couple month pandemic, that only this season is going to be affected, and
But it's not just the owners, it's both sides of the coin. It doesn't sound like either. It sounds like the two are acting like big babies and one has to beat the other. Gentlemen, you got to compromise. Okay, compromising is the name of the game here. Okay, it's not who wins, who loses. If the total revenue for the game to the ballpark, okay, are say $10 million a game, and I'm just
no, it's just a number. I got you.
Let's say it's 10 million, okay? Then how about if the players lose 5 million and the owners lose 5 million? You shouldn't take the 10 million away from the players. That's not fair either. Okay?
Right.
Why can't they split the difference? Or maybe the players have to take 60% of the owners 40, or the owners take 40%, or the owners take 60 and the players take 40. You know what I'm saying? Throw them some kind of a bone. I mean, remember, these guys, it's not just the money they make. They get the meal money and everything else too. I mean, the owners aren't making any money right now. They're not the ones that are out on unemployment getting free checks right now.
I mean,
they're taking a bath. They're going to take a bath without the revenue. I mean, not every team has revenue like the Yankees, where they're getting $500 million from the Yes Network to televise their games. So their payroll is already covered, whether there's a fan in the seat or not. And Hal is still making his money. Not every team has that situation. I mean, I'm sure the Phillies are probably in the same kind of situation. I'm sure Comcast is paying the Phillies enough money that their owner is not going to get hurt by this. But not every team is like that.
And the Phillies are one of 5 major league teams that are still paying their game day employees during this pandemic. So kudos to them.
Yep. I mean, that's
I know the Twins. I know the Twins are another one. The other 3, they escape me right now.
Yeah.
Brad, the revenue gate is small. Yes, the revenue gate is small, Bob. That is a good point, but it is essential for these small market teams to have a strong gate when the Yankees and the Red Sox come in, when the Phillies go to Pittsburgh, when the Yankees go to Kansas City, or the Red Sox go to Kansas City. That gate's a big deal to the Royals, no?
Oh, it is. Of course it is. I mean, all these small market teams. I mean, when the Dodgers go to Milwaukee, the Milwaukee Brewers are going to get that game's going to be sold out. Or when the Dodgers go to Pittsburgh, that game's going to be sold out. There's certain
Yes.
certain teams. When Cincinnati and the Pirates play, that's a big rivalry. Those stadiums are usually pretty full. When St. Louis and the Cubs go to Cincinnati, the stadiums are going to be full.
Yes.
I mean, these are situations. Well, the gate is not 80% of the game. We know that, but it's still a situation where they're making money. And Prism, I hear you about don't owners have outside businesses, but one thing.
Yes, that's a great question by Prism. What percentage of owners only make money through ownership of the team?
Yeah, but that's
I don't know, but I would say the answer is 0.
Yeah, but that's apples and oranges, though. I mean, it's not really about
that. Really, it goes to the point that the owners should be. I think the owners should be making more of an effort to compromise with the players to get their sport on the field, as
I agree.
Players compromising with the owners, because if this season gets canceled because of they can't figure out how to split up these millions and trillions of dollars, baseball will never recover. It'll be 94 times a million. I'm telling
you, it's going to be
bad look. And I hope that the players and the owners recognize and understand that.
Well, I mean, listen, Montreal lost a baseball team because of that strike in '94.
They also lost. I mean, you could argue that they lost a World Series championship as well. They have a team.
Yep. Absolutely. And yes, Prism, you can take the loss for a year. I hear you. I'm sure a lot.
I hear you, but also I see it like they're not in business to lose money.
No. And another team that depends. I mean, listen, teams like the Tampa Bay Rays, when the Yankees and Red Sox come in, that they play in front of empty stadiums for the most part. But when the Yankees and Red Sox come in, that's where they're making their money. I just cannot believe that if the owners don't agree with them, the players may end up striking next year just to spite the owners.
I would like to think that wouldn't happen, and I think that's where Chrome's coming from here.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen what he's saying.
They can't come to an agreement, and the possibility of strike is out there as well right after the MLB is done. Yeah, that would be terrible. That would be.
Yeah, I mean, the players could do that too, and I would hate to think that would happen. But the problem is, there's not going to be if these guys are losing a lot of money. How much do you think they're going to be able to pay all the guys who are going to be free agents next year? Don't you think the free agents are going to take a little bit of a bath too?
Well, yeah. Look at the NFL. Look at the NFL this year. Like Devontae Freeman and Cam Newton aren't going to get paid anywhere near what they're supposed to get paid.
No, Devontae Freeman may not even play.
I read that, and that's his prerogative. He should do whatever he thinks is best for him.
Cam Newton, it's shocking.
If they have no fans during at least, I think, the first 8 weeks of football season are going to be played without fans, at least.
I think that's a pretty accurate statement. I don't think they're going to have.
How's the salary cap going to go up if they're losing that revenue? I know they still have the TV money, and that's most of it, but
yeah, football is a little different.
The salary cap might
the enormity
lower. Has that ever happened before?
It could. I mean, listen, the enormity.
That's horrible for the players, because then they're not getting paid.
But the enormity of the TV contract will save the NFL. But again, the fans are paying for seat licenses, and they're not getting tickets. That's going to be a problem. I mean, how do you keep how do you not do something about giving the fans back money on the seat licenses when you're not putting a product out?
Well, what they're going to do is they're going to credit it. They're not going to give anything back. They're just going to credit your account for next season. Like when
but I'm not talking about
the playoff games don't happen.
I'm not talking about the tickets though. I'm talking about the seat licenses.
Yeah.
What are they going to do about that? I mean, you're buying a seat license.
Not a damn thing.
Yeah, well,
you're going to pay.
But
fans are going to pay.
The seat
license, my guess.
The value of those seat licenses are going to go right down the chute. Because if you can't, a lot of these don't forget a lot of these football tickets are corporate tickets.
Big
You
time.
know,
That's why it costs $10 million to go to the Super Bowl. And no fans like me or you can ever afford to go to the Super Bowl ever again.
no, they're making it completely unrealistic.
It's
But
like when you were buying your World Series tickets last year.
yeah, they wanted $500 to sit in the last row of the upper deck, and I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. You know, if I'm going to pay $500, at least let me be able to read the names in the back of the jerseys. You know,
Yeah.
and I'd be okay to read the names in the back of the jerseys if I had binoculars. But you're so far away, you can't even do that. Come on, you know, for $500. But that's what they do, and that's tough.
We got a little sidetracked here. It was a great conversation though with the baseball. I hope that we get an alert on our phone when we wake up tomorrow that the union and MLB and they have a plan and they're going to get things in motion because I miss baseball. Brad, today we check out the ATD Twitter account. They have fun facts and figures that they post every once in a while. This was the first Memorial Day with no Major League Baseball games played since 1880.
Oh my God.
1880. There's been Major League Baseball on every Memorial Day since 1880 until this Corona outbreak of 2020.
Yeah, and
Back.
Memorial Day has always been a day where if you're, by Memorial Day, if your team is within 5 games of first place, you're psyched because you're good.
You're in for a rockin' summer.
Yeah, exactly. It's always been a benchmark. And no games played. So
And we need sports. We need sports in this country. It's a competition factor. There's a communal factor to it.
oh yeah, and it's the morale
to it.
It's sports. Their morale is hurting right now because there's no sports, and it's just it's an outlet, and right now you don't have that outlet, and there's a lot of people who really miss that outlet, and it's hard. It really is. It's frustrating because there's not a darn thing you can do about it. It's not within anybody's control. People who are handling it, there's nothing you or me or anybody else can say that's going to get anything done any more quickly than it is now.
No.
I mean, we can till the cows come home. Nothing's going to change.
Right. I wanted to go through this NBA bracket real quick, just because I think it's fascinating that, and this is a potential plan. This isn't set in stone. This isn't definitely how they're doing it, even though it looks likely.
I understand that the Knicks have decided that they don't want to take part in this.
Yeah, they're boycotting.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Boycotting.
I thought I heard something about that.
Well, how about your boy Ewing? I mean, he's got the coronavirus down there in Washington.
He got sent home today. He got
sent home today, so hopefully he's doing a good job there at Georgetown, so I hope he bounces back.
Yeah, he'll be okay.
Bounces back strong. So, number 1 seed in the tournament will be the Milwaukee Bucks playing the 16 seed Orlando Magic. That's a clean sweep for
that'll be quick.
the Bucks. Then you get, because that's an Eastern, then you got the 8-9 matchup of the Heat and the Thunder. They're not even in the same conference.
Ooh.
Actually be playing each other.
That's
a format. I like the Heat because I love Jimmy Butler. I love Bam Adebayo. I think that Eric Spoelstra is a tremendous coach, and I can't stand Chris Paul. So any chance I can get to root against Chris Paul is fine by me. So I would like the Heat in that series.
Yeah, well, I hate Pat Riley, so I can never root for the Heat under any circumstance. Because of my hate of Pat Riley.
Did he coach the Knicks?
Yeah, but he also quit. He also resigned from the Knicks, and he resigned via fax. He didn't even have the nerve to step out in front of the New York media.
So you're out.
I'm leaving.
You're out on Riley.
Yeah. So you know what?
So you're gonna take the Thunder.
The only reason they won is because they had 2 bought championships. So screw the Heat. I hope they lose. I hope they get humiliated every season for the rest of the And I'll take the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Okay, and I mean, you flip a coin, that's a pretty evenly matched series there.
Yes.
Then we got the Celtics and the Sixers. I like the Celtics, unfortunately.
I think that's a
Oh.
tough series. I think the Sixers could beat them, but they're gonna. I mean, I think the most important game of that series is going to be Game 1.
Look, I just don't have any confidence in Brett Brown that he's going to have a young team with Simmons and Embiid at the forefront ready to go after some long layoff. And I have even less confidence in the maturity level of Joel Embiid to be in shape and ready to go after a long layoff. I don't get the gist, but Joel Embiid has yet to earn my fandom. I recognize he's a supreme talent. I recognize that he's super important to the Sixers' success if they want to go anywhere. But he hasn't earned my fandom. I don't trust the guy. And I'm sick of all these process sheep thinking every little thing he does is just adorable when it's not. It's nauseating and frustrating. So, I mean, I just don't have any confidence in this basketball team after such a long layoff. Then
they are a talented team, though.
They are an enigma, a frustrating enigma.
Well, yeah, but you know what they have?
The Sixers are.
They have the ability to beat the Celtics. I do think that I think that they could get past the Celtics. I would question them getting past the Clippers. That would be tough. That would be really, really tough.
Then we got hold on, where'd the tab go here? Okay, then we got the Mavericks are going to play the Clippers. The Clippers would be the 4 seed in this de facto tournament here. Now the Mavs are an interesting team with Doncic, and I think they have a bright future, but they're not ready to beat a team like the Clippers.
Well, KP and Doncic together are quite the.
They're very good, but I mean, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. I mean, Doc Rivers coaching. I just think they're a little too much for the.
That's going to be a tough series.
I don't think that's a sweep. I don't think that's a sweep for the Clippers.
The Clippers are going to have a tough time. I'm curious. I am curious how those teams matched up when they played each other during the season. That I would be curious about.
And then you have that would be interesting. I don't think that's a sweep for the Clippers, but I think they get it done.
Yeah, I would think that they would, but that would be a tough series.
Then you have the Raptors and the Grizzlies.
Yeah, I think the Raptors handle them.
Raptors win that.
Yeah, they handle
them. I mean, Morant is a good player, but the Raptors are just a way better team.
Yeah.
Now the next one I think could be the upset of the first round. You have the 6-seeded Nuggets taking on the Pacers of Indiana. And I would like the Pacers in this series. All due respect to the talent the Denver Nuggets have. Look, you have Oladipo healthy, rested. You have Turner and Sabonis. I mean, I really like what the Pacers are doing over there in Indiana.
The thing with the Pacers, the sum of the parts is greater than the actual talent. It just seems that they have all the miscellaneous factors to be able to win a series like that. Yeah. Don't know if the Nuggets are quite ready for prime time like that yet.
Well, the Nuggets have Jokic. They have Gary Harris. They have Jamal Murray. They have a good team. But I don't know. That struck me as the
I could see Indiana winning that series.
The Cinderella, the upset of the first round.
Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that.
Then you round it out with the Jazz and the Rockets. I don't know, because reports are that Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert no longer get along because Rudy Gobert was being such a knucklehead about the coronavirus. And he got, him and some of his teammates infected and got the whole league shut down. Not that it's Rudy Gobert's fault. We're not going to place blame for the coronavirus here, but
I mean, that's kind of being childish. I think when push comes to shove and they get back on the court again, they're both going to want to win, and they'll put their differences aside. I can't imagine something like that.
You think they beat a team like the Rockets?
The Rockets, the Rockets.
I understand they're not the greatest team, but
they're such an underachieving playoff team. When did the
I
Rockets?
Can't argue that.
When do the Rockets ever do what they're supposed to do in the playoffs? Everything is dramatic with them.
Well, no, I mean they had the Warriors had the rights the one year, and then idiot Paul doesn't even gives them 0 minutes in Game 7, and they lose.
They'll score 20 points in 3 minutes, and then they'll go the rest of the quarter and not score. I mean, they're such a weird team. It's hard to figure them. That's why they can never win a championship because they.
Well, I mean, I don't think the D'Antoni style of play is conducive to playoff success, championship.
It's conducive to very exciting basketball and a lot of points. But you're right. When it comes to the nitty gritty, sometimes you have to be able to play that half court game and
get stops, play defense.
Yeah, and D'Antoni's system does not.
You remember they don't have Clint Capella anymore. They have a team of all guards.
Yeah, they're going to be try to outquick everybody, and in college that might work. I just don't know if that can work in the pros.
And then the last matchup, the 2-seeded Lakers take on the 15-seeded Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, that'll be done in 3.
Well, are you sure about that? What if Kevin Durant plays?
Yeah, but he hasn't played all season.
I get that, and you got to think Kyrie is with the layoff with his shoulder operation.
Is he going to be ready to play though?
Well, I'd have to dig more deeper into.
Listen, I wouldn't if I'm the Nets. Okay, I wouldn't play either one of those guys because even if they had them and they're coming off an injury, I don't think they could win anyway. I would just let them rest until next season starts and then try to win a championship next year because they're built to do it next year. I mean, nobody's expecting anyway. Nobody's expecting anything out of them this year anyway, so nobody would be upset.
Well, I don't even know who their coach is now because they ran that Atkinson out of town, who I thought was a good coach because he wouldn't start DeAndre Jordan because Jared Allen was better.
Yeah, well, because the players got pissed off and the owner. Oh, that was a whole ridiculous thing, But you're going to have another year with Caris LeVert, and he's going to, hopefully he'll be healthy next year as well. He's been banged up. I just think for the Nets, they'd be a lot smarter to just go ahead and play it out, and then bring those guys back next year. So LA would win anyway. So I think this is going to be a very, very, very tough thing to beat LA anyway. I mean, the Nets
Bob Brinkman wants me to stop. He wants me to stop talking about rust. He said these professional athletes aren't going to have any rust.
It's not a question of rust. It's a question of being in mid-season form.
Well, I think basketball is the easiest sport for these guys to just lace up the kicks and go play and not miss much of a beat. Maybe it takes you a little time to gel as a unit in the game, but
yeah, I think hockey is the most.
Well, players need extended training periods.
Yeah, I think hockey is tough because you get 20. You got 20 guys, and some of them are never on the ice at the same time with each other, and it does take a little bit of time to get yourself back, especially the goalies.
And Bob also says Oladipo is an MVP type player when he's healthy. I totally agree with that. I love the Pacers in that series against the Nuggets.
Yeah, and he's getting 2 months off.
And then we have Prism 280. Embiid had 0 points in a game against the Raptors. Tom got mad when I suggested trading Embiid for Bledsoe and Middleton and 2 first-round picks. It's not a bad trade, but
that's a pretty good trade for the Sixers. If
I'm just not there with trading Embiid yet. That's the other frustrating thing with Embiid. By the time you figure out it's time to trade Joel Embiid, he'll have no value.
Well, the other problem is this: when you trade a superstar, you're never going to get equal value in return.
Right.
You never do. I mean, whoever trades the superstar is always going to get ripped off unless something crazy happens.
And then I'm not the biggest Bledsoe guy. And then you're getting 2 first-round picks. Like Middleton,
But if they're Milwaukee's first-round picks, they're going to be like the 30th pick. Big deal.
Yes.
It's like having 2 second-round picks.
So what does that really do? Those first-round picks. It sounds good on paper. Doesn't
Yeah,
really.
but
Chris Middleton. I think Chris Middleton's terrific. He's an all-star player, but
I'd rather have Embiid.
First-round picks that are going to be late in the draft. I mean, what can I really do with that?
What are you going to do with the 30th pick? You really think you're going to? I mean,
have
they're projects when they're that low.
you
Usually,
have Bledsoe, and then you have Bledsoe, who I'm not the biggest fan of.
he's okay.
And that would give Prism 280 a starting 5 of Eric Bledsoe, Chris Middleton, Tobias Harris, Ben Simmons, and Al Horford. Best starting 5 in the NBA with Simmons. I don't know. Best starting 5. I'd have to the other starting 5. I don't know about that. But I like it. I like Chris Middleton. See, the problem with the Sixers is Horford. I told you when it happened last offseason that was a bad signing and I didn't like it. Everyone chastised me.
They got him because he's always done a good job defending Joel Embiid.
So you give him $115 million just so Joel Embiid doesn't have to.
No, I wouldn't have done that.
I mean, that's scared. That's managing.
They should have done something. They should have gone out and tried to replace Jimmy with somebody like him who could.
Well, that's the problem. I would love to have Jimmy Butler. I mean, Jimmy Butler, Ben Simmons, Tobias.
Jimmy was a terrific player. He's a terrific player.
I'd much rather him with Redick off the bench. I can't even put Elton Brand. I can't even follow Elton Brand. I mean, he's not the problem here in Philadelphia. I think the problem with Philadelphia is a horrendous Al Horford contract and a subpar coach in Brett Brown.
Well, here's the question, okay? Regarding what does Brett have to do to keep his job?
Well, I think Brett Brown's job got saved because of the coronavirus.
Yeah, but if they get knocked out in the first round, I don't know. I
think he's going to get a pass.
Oh boy, I mean that's if they lose.
That's my opinion. Look, we talk about Brett Brown, and I scream and yell about Brett Brown and how much I think he's not a good coach, and he's not the coach to take this team to the Eastern Conference Finals and NBA Finals. We talk about every time the Sixers come up. We talk.
Well, let me ask you this:
I've said this.
If they lose a tough first round series, 3-2, and they have a classic Game 5 and they lose a close game,
he'll be back.
Then he's back. But if they get swept in the first round or they lose in 4, I can't see. I can't imagine because
I think he's going to be back. I hope he's not back because I don't think he's a very good coach.
Yeah, I think his whole career with the Sixers.
Brett Brown would be such a good college coach, Brad. And I'm not saying that to rip Brett Brown. It's supposed to be a compliment because the way he would be able to get 2- and 3-star recruits at like a program that, a lesser program that's not Duke, or Kansas or Villanova.
No, I got you. Like a Rutgers.
He could really develop talent and keep these kids for 3-4 years and really build a powerhouse.
You put him like at St. John. At St. John's, I think he'd
something like that. Creighton.
Yeah, I think he'd do well.
Purdue, one of those teams.
You never know; that could end up happening, but we'll see. I mean, it's all right now. Right now, we have to get to that point, but I do think that if the Sixers manage to have a good series against Boston, if they lose a classic 5-game series, he's back. But I think if they get smacked around in the first round and take a humbling kind of loss, I gotta think he's gone. I cannot imagine that they would bring him back. I think the fans in Philly are very tough on these guys.
They don't. The Sixers ownership. They don't give a rat's ass about the fans. They don't care about the fans at all.
Yeah, but they want to win.
No, they don't. They lost games on purpose for 5 years straight. What do you mean they want?
Yeah, but that was so that they could get some good young talent and try to win a championship.
We can have soft, immature sweatbags like Joel Embiid that just give me agita.
Joel now has a chance to prove you wrong.
They do, and I welcome it because I am a Sixers fan.
And they are a very talented team. There's no reason why they can't beat. They won 3 out of 4 against Boston this year.
Did. They did.
Okay, well, if they won 3 out of 4, why can't they do it again in the playoffs?
They could.
That's what I know that it's a different game. I know the playoffs are different. I get that. Every sport, the playoffs are different than the regular season. But you know what? I think the Sixers, the biggest problem with them against Boston was I think they had to get it out of their head, get it out of their minds, and prove to themselves that they could beat these guys. And they finally got over the hump and did it. So there's no reason why they can't do it. I do think that they are a better team than Boston. It's just a question. It's just a question. They had a better record, a lot better record.
No, they didn't.
Well, if the Sixers are the 5 seed,
no, the Celtics are the 5 seed.
Oh, the Celtics are the 5 seed.
The Sixers are the 12 seed.
What was their record at the end of the year?
The Sixers, they stunk, Brad. Well, games over 500.
How many games over 500?
A couple. I mean, I don't have it with me, and we're about to be out of time, but I mean, we can get into the Sixers next. But yeah, they're a good team. They're barely in this tournament.
Well, again, you know what? In spite of having a lackluster season, all can be forgiven if
they can fix it. Yes, they can fix it.
All's forgiven if you have a good playoff.
You're right. All right, that'll do it for this edition of the Sports Hounds. Happy Memorial Day. For what's left of it, enjoy it. Thank you, all your military people out there, for your service. Thank you to Greg Pryor for coming on the show.
Don't forget his book.
Check out his book. Check out his mental health supplements, lifepriority.com. If you missed anything, stream us online. A2D Radio, we're the biggest, baddest sports media company in the country. Until next Monday, he's Brad. I'm Rob. Peace.